Backstage with Mothership on Solid Rock Radio begins now. Hear the best in new music, artist interviews, stories from the road, and more. You are now backstage, and here's your host, Mothership.
Hey, everybody. My friend Cale Kight of Love Like Gravity messaged me last week with some exciting news that I need to share with you all. I'll let him tell you, though. So, Cale Kight, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Long time no see. You were opening for John Sklllet.
It's been a while. Something like 8 years, I think.
Oh, my gosh.
8 or 9. Time flies.
Yeah, time does fly. That is for sure. Well, you're with Love Like Gravity, and I hadn't heard from you or seen anything about you in forever. Yeah. And then you tell me you've got a new single, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, let's find out what's happening.
It was almost as big a surprise to us.
So you surprised yourself with a single.
That's right.
All right. Tell us a little bit about Love Like Gravity.
Love Like Gravity started, I guess, officially back in 2009. Some of the members had kind of been together under a different band name previously. And it was probably around 2009 we went into the studio in Nashville, well, in Franklin, actually, with Tony Palacios and Jim Cooper. Those are Guardian and Petra alumni. I actually started working on a couple of singles. We were kind of coming in right on the heels of Decyfer, who had worked with them previously. And it was actually their record that kind of made us give them a call. So anyway, we started working on that first record, toured through, well, up through about 2015. Managed to do 2 records. Had 3-4 singles, I think, do really well in the charts. That was back when Billboard was still charting Christian rock. Mm-hmm. And then just started doing other things after 2015, pastoring churches, doing, we had guys going into worship, and I started doing production work. Stan started working on kind of doing drum sessions for different artists and stuff, even overseas. And just got busy with life.
What happened?
Well, Stan and I have continued to write for various projects. We're doing a lot of different things. He actually did a side project about 2 years ago that was kind of a prog rock kind of thing. And I came in kind of helping him write. He wanted me to write on a couple of songs. We wound up doing an EP. He released it independently. Some of the stuff we were writing kind of sounded more like Love Like Gravity than it did the side project he was working on. And so we just kind of would put those over to the side. The other guys had been busy. The singer that was on the second record had moved out to California. Well, I had become acquainted with this guy in South Florida. And we had been talking for, I guess, back and forth about 2 years. And I actually wound up hiring him for some session work that I was doing, some songwriter demos and stuff. Somewhere in that process, it was really weird. We just took one of the songs and I handed it off to him. And I was like, here's one I've been working on, kind of hit a wall in a couple places. Would you be interested? And he's like, yeah, I hadn't done rock music in a while. About 4 or 5 days later, sent me this song back and had completed the lyric and went ahead and cut vocals on it. And I was floored. I was like, wow.
Cool.
Yeah. So we started talking and started looking at songs. And the next thing we knew, we had 5 and almost 6 now. And so it looks like we're doing full length.
Wow. That is insane.
We're doing a record.
A record kind of made itself.
Yeah, it was, and it happened really quickly. I mean, the single, we're talking February. That's when the first completed version of it was done. Between February and now, we're sitting at about 6 songs. So
that is great. So tell everybody, who is Love Like Gravity?
Okay, so currently the active members, myself and Stan Mayo, which is the original drummer, co-founder, and Billy Penn is singer and guitar player. So right now we're currently a 3-piece. So the current single, which is the song that I was just talking about, the very first song that kind of got us to this point, is the song Devils in the Details. The song itself is basically a commentary, I guess, on the culture that we find ourselves in right now, where it's so easy not to really look at the truth in detail. We kind of start to view that through a relativistic lens rather than there actually being objective truth, which is absolute, and the danger and the pitfalls that come from that.
I know everyone's going to love it because I listened to it, and the next thing I know, I was humming the titles.
That's a good thing.
I know. I was like, okay, if I'm doing this, like just listening to it twice, okay. It's an excellent song. I know everyone's going to love it. When do you think the whole album will be out?
If everything continues to track the way that it's been tracking, we're hoping end of summer.
Okay.
So,
and are we hoping to tour?
Well, it's funny because we're just kind of taking it one day at a time because obviously this was unexpected. So we're enjoying the creative process, and we're kind of in a weird state right now with touring, and I know things are opening back up, but there's still the financial hurdles and family hurdles and whatnot, but we'll see what happens. Obviously, God opened this door out of the clear blue, so we'll see what happens.
Amen. That's great. So tell us more about Cale Kight Music. Is that your production company?
Yeah, Cale Kight Music. 2-3 years ago, I built a studio. I had been doing some production work on the side for a couple of years anyway, and just a lot of writing and co-writing, which I really enjoy. And so in the last 2 to 3 years, it's really kind of taken off. I still have a normal job too, but I'm staying busy with music outside of Love Like Gravity as well. And it's a lot of different genres too. I mean, it's everything from worship to there's some pop, the heavier music, a little bit of country.
Now, where are you located? Were you in Macon?
It's a little bitty town called Silverton, Georgia, right outside of Vidalia. Yeah, that's where I'm at. Ironically, I named my studio Big City Sounds.
Great. Nice play there.
Yeah, exactly. It's the farthest thing from a big city.
You're probably the biggest thing in the city, right?
Exactly. We do have a Dairy Queen now, so.
Wow. Have you got a Fred's?
Not anymore. We did.
Dollar General?
We do still have a Dollar General. I think everybody does.
You got Harvey's down there, or you got the Pig Wig?
I think it's the Piggly Wiggly, yeah. That grocery store's changed names a few times over the years.
Oh, that's frightening. People got to know what it's like to be in a small South Georgia town. I don't know if you knew, we were in Lakeland, Georgia for a while, which is just above Valdosta.
I've been through it many times.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're a little familiar with down there.
Cool.
Backstage with Mothership returns after this. Check us out on Facebook at I'm with Mothership. Out Performance Shop is a proud supporter of Solid Rock Radio. They specialize in retail and wholesale of automotive, high-performance, racing, and off-road products. They also carry a variety of accessories from remote control cars to rock and roller multi-carts. On the web at outperformance.com. You're listening to Backstage with Mothership on Solid Rock Radio.
Have you got any little insider things that people that are fans, might enjoy hearing about?
I had a hard drive fail that had so much original material and just pictures and road videos and road documentary stuff that you can't replace. So I actually just had Best Buy recover that drive for me. So I've been watching old videos and just laughing my head off, but I can't think of anything that a story that I would tell that would be relevant to anyone who wasn't in that moment, because it would just sound like, okay, well, that's interesting. But if you were, it was hilarious.
What are your favorite tour snacks? And you haven't been touring in a while.
I haven't been. And the funny thing is, when it comes to tour snacks, I would probably, I guess there's a caveat. It would be Once Upon a Time tour snacks or the later years tour snacks, because I became like a really healthy eater, especially. So Tony Palacios and I became really, really close friends through working in the studio on those first couple of records, and just he's done so much other stuff for me. Like he's playing bass on this record too, so that's a nice little insider bit. But he actually got me eating clean years ago, and so I cut out a lot of the tour snacks, but there's one that
there's always one.
There's one that it's the most disgusting thing, I'm sure, to most people. But whenever we would tour, first of all, coffee was the big ticket item for us. But the racetracks and the raceways used to have those. Well, they still have them, I'm sure. But the machines with the rolling wheels, and it's got the little long stick of mystery meat, chicken, gyro kind of stuff. I used to love those things. So every time we would go to a racetrack or whatever and stop, I would always wind up getting one of those like ranch chicken sticks.
Yikes.
It had probably been spinning on that wheel for no telling how long.
Don't even venture to guess.
Yeah.
Did you eat beef jerky?
Yeah, I never really was into beef jerky. I'm actually probably more into beef jerky now. Yeah, it was pretty much always the
mystery meat on a stick.
Yeah, that's it. Pretty much. I was always crazy about festival food.
Yeah.
Like anytime we would go to like festivals or anything that I didn't have in my hometown or any of the bigger town, something that you're not used to. I do remember being in Florida and finding this like killer. It was a donut shop, but it was like handmade donuts. Things like it was like a maple frosting, and they would dip it in like Fruity Pebbles.
Oh my goodness!
It was like the best thing I've ever eaten in my life.
One of the craziest things I've ever eaten that's like that is we went to Carowinds to see Sklllet, and they're friends of ours. So John Chu, that played violin for them, he goes, "Come on, let's go," and he says, "I want some fried candy bars."
Wow.
And so we went over, and he ended up eating fried Oreos, and we got like fried Snickers, and then we had some other. Anyway, that was wild to me. I'd never tried anything like that. We were all sharing, trying to taste all of them.
We actually played a festival that had fried Oreos, and we'd never had any. So the three of us, it was myself and the original lead singer and our other guitarist, Justin. Mm-hmm. We all I think we ate like 3 or 4 fried Oreos and then had to play.
Oh, no.
Worst mistake ever.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, that's an after show snack for sure.
Yeah, it was a lesson learned.
Let's go back to the beginning of Love Like Gravity. What was the idea when you guys got together? I mean, were you just friends from school? Were you?
Love Like Gravity actually was a really strange thing how it all kind of came together. Now, the banner that we were under originally, the band that was kind of pre-Love Like Gravity, we were friends and all pretty near one another. I started writing songs probably in the, earlier part of the 2000s. Just kind of really getting into writing rock music. And a guy here locally, a friend of mine, was a singer, and so we started doing stuff together. And we actually went out to Arkansas and did an album with a guy who kind of second engineered for Travis Wyatt for a little while. Oh. And when we did that record, we started holding auditions, and that's when we found Stan. And kind of as things started to shift, some of those guys kind of left and started doing other things. And Stan and I just decided that we had kind of already started working with Tony, continued pursuing that. So we started holding auditions for a singer. And holding auditions for a singer is actually how we found the rest of the band.
Okay.
Because a couple of those guys came up to audition, and we just all really had a good chemistry. Jeremy played guitar and bass, and Justin was a great guitar player. I actually met Dustin through a mutual friend who was a pastor over in Mississippi. Mm-hmm. And he had met Dustin and found out we were looking for a singer. And he said, "Hey, I got this guy you need to talk to." I can't remember who called who. I don't know if I called Dustin or Dustin called me, but that's how it all got started.
How did we get the name?
When we started working with Tony said, "Yeah, I think this would be a great time to change the name. All you've got is okay, but it's just okay." And so we started thinking, and for 2 or 3 months, we just kind of started writing stuff down. And we had 2 or 3 things I remember on a list. And I remember, just kind of spitballing, and I remember going online, and they had a band name generator back in those days. And you could just like plug in a bunch of words and it would throw stuff together.
Yeah.
And I had this thought in my mind that I was like, well, I want to put in love like, and it was actually love hyphen like. I was thinking about, what things God's love might be like that would be cool. And it started throwing up all this stuff, and somehow gravity came in again, but it didn't come in the order. But it just kind of dawned on me. And so I was talking to a couple of the other guys, and we were like, I could really work, because the mindset is that God's love is sustaining, and it's kind of catchy. It kind of rolls off the tongue.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of searching for names, and then that one kind of having a meaning that kind of resonated with us.
Okay. Yeah.
Backstage with Mothership returns after this. Outperformance Service Family is a Solid Rock Radio business ministry partner who offers turnkey e-commerce website design, marketing, and converged technology consulting. Online at outperformancemarketing.com. Check us out on Facebook at I'm with Mothership.
Did you grow up in the church?
I did. From the time I was old enough to go to church, my parents had me in church. Man, I didn't find out about Christian rock music until I was probably 13, 14 years old, before I ever knew that even existed. In my part of the country, it's mostly Southern gospel or Sandy Patty or, whatever. So that's kind of what you grew up listening to.
Right.
Stephen Curtis Chapman came in there toward then. But I remember a friend of mine introducing me to the band Petra, who had played at the Macon Coliseum apparently that year before, something I was unaware of, but their youth group had gone. So he was telling me about it on a school field trip. And he was like, "I think you would really like them." So I went that was when Camelot Music was still around. I went to Camelot and bought a Petra cassette and fell in love.
You remember which one it was?
It was Unseen Power.
Okay.
It was 91. That record had just came out. I remember it like it was yesterday. And so from there, I started just buying everything that I could of their stuff, kind of back catalog. And from there found, Guardian, Whiteheart. It was
either uphill or downhill depending
on whether you ask me or my parents.
Yeah, you resonated with it. Yeah, I used to work in a Christian bookstore, and I saw Petra when they were premiering This Means War album. Actually, well, it was a cassette, but I met the band at that point, but I didn't really get to know John until later.
I always loved their stuff.
Me too.
I really followed Christian rock right on through. And then if for whatever reason, this one song in particular that I just remember when things kind of shifted for me with Christian music, and it was a song called All Over Me by the Benjamin Gate. Would have been probably late 90s. That was, I think, their first single. And I remember it was in a Christian bookstore, and it was on one of those sampler CDs. And I remember just picking it up when I was, at the cash register checking out. And I was like, I'll give this a try. So it was the first time I'd heard, I don't know, it was just kind of a new thing. It was kind of grungy and alternative and heavier, and it just kind of ticked all the right boxes for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And an artist was born.
Yeah, well, something like that.
Don't sell yourself short. That first album, Love Like Gravity, when I started listening to it again, I thought, I know all these songs. It's still in my head. I hadn't listened to it in a while, but I was like, okay, I remember these. These are really good.
Yeah, well, thank you.
I really enjoyed that.
Making that record.
Yeah. We're going to introduce folks to some of those that have never heard them before.
Cool.
And so that'll be really nice. So tell me, what are we going to be looking for next? We've got the single coming out. Mm-hmm. And then you said stand by on your social media for hearing about the album.
Yeah, we'll probably be dropping a few things along the way. We're thinking about doing some behind the scenes, kind of making of stuff, as we get a little closer. There'll be another single coming right before the record drops. We've already earmarked the second one. We actually had a hard time choosing which one was going to be first because they feel really inspired. So we're excited about the second one as much as we are the first one.
That's awesome. Well, I'm just looking forward to some new music from you. I was so excited when you contacted me and told me that you had it coming out and said, hey, you remember me?
And I appreciate all your help. You have been so kind and gracious with your time.
I love introducing people to new stuff, and I love promoting people who are reaching out to not only fans, but to artists as well, and encouraging each other. I mean, We've got to reach out, and we need to encourage each other. We need to build each other up. I
agree. It's such a weird time. It seems like the relational aspect of everything becomes very much more important than even before. It's always been important, but it seems to have a certain highlight to it right now.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody, I think, is more emotional, a little tighter strung, and, it's so important.
And music's powerful. I know it has been for me. I mean, I remember, at 13 and 14, just the headphones stayed in my ears. It was more than just cool music, though. A lot of the bands that I mentioned earlier, they really had something to say. And it was positive, and it was powerful, and it was life-changing. So, I mean, that's a great tool.
Music is medicine.
Absolutely. It always has been for me.
Yeah, and me too. Sometimes it's just the only thing that's keeping some people going, that just can't handle anything heavier than music.
Right.
They can't handle the scriptures, or they can't handle, relationships, but the music can keep them afloat till they're able to move on,
I agree.
Speaking of Petra, I was in a Zoom call with Bob Hartman this week. Did you ever get to meet him?
We were in Franklin. It was before we'd started working on that record. And I remember it was totally a fan kind of
moment.
Yeah. And I remember walking up to him, and I knew exactly what I wanted to say. And I just got up and shook his hand and was like, I love your music. Here's a CD. And I gave him a CD of probably not really good music, but he just looked at me like,
you poor child. Well, you got to know that's happened to him a billion times.
Yeah. And I've never had a chance to meet him again to try to redeem myself. But yeah, I mean, they started in 73 or 4?
Something like that.
Yeah.
When I was in high school,
because
I'm 61.
I have that first record, and I'm pretty sure I have everything they ever put out.
Wow.
And I know that first record was 73 or 74. Yeah.
And talk about John Sklllet. I mean, he's still got a fantastic voice.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
Well, him and
ridiculous.
Gianna Elefante were doing something.
Oh, yes.
Oh, brilliant. They sound amazing.
They do.
Yeah.
It's crazy. He's still going. All righty. I appreciate you taking some time and talking with me.
Appreciate you having me.
Well, I'm going to let you go, and I hope to see you on the road.
I'll be honest with you. None of us are opposed to it. So if everything lines up, because we love playing live. We love meeting people. So we'll see.
All right. Well, good night.
Good night. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you for listening tonight. Stay tuned for more great music all night long. Be sure to check out my I'm with Mothership Facebook page and Solid Rock Radio's website. Follow the link under shows to Backstage with Mothership, which will have the links to my guests' social media accounts. This show will be replayed at 4 a.m. Eastern Time. Past interviews available on podcast.solidrockradio.org, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on Pandora platforms. And remember this week, be kind to one another.